Hello and welcome to Real Opinions, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Great Wall, which I saw because I got the timings wrong for Get Out. When you hear the premise of The Great Wall, it could be one of two things. It could be a really enjoyable, really fun popcorn movie that's stupid but kind of well made, or it could be so bad that it's good. It could be one of those two things, because the premise is so utterly ridiculous. It's about Matt Damon playing a possibly Irish man who goes to the Great Wall of China to team up with these Power Rangers looking Chinese soldiers who bungee jump off the Great Wall of China to fight lizards that have telepathy. It's an amazing premise and it should be deliriously entertaining. The thing is, it's kind of occupying this halfway point between so bad it's good and genuinely good, and that means that it's neither. It's just a little bit crap. Not terrible, not even unenjoyable, just kind of trash. It's something that I think if there was nothing else on TV, I'd probably watch and not mind, but it's not something that I could recommend at the same time. The script is completely atrocious. Characters are so bland and so boring, which is fine because I never expected more from them. The problem is that there's so many of the fuckers. There's so many characters in this, and they are indistinguishable. There's just a mesh of characters in this film that all have the same motivation and the same purpose, and you just think to yourself, why do there need to be so many of them? They could all be consolidated into one character that would have the exact same function to the story. For example, there's Willem Dafoe, who, by the way, is in this film, and therefore it should be really fun, but Willem Dafoe has the exact same motivation, the exact same plot function as Oberyn from Game of Thrones. They could just be thrown together, be the exact same character, because everything that Willem Dafoe does could just be done by... For fuck's sake, Ben! Will you fuck off? Everything that Willem Dafoe does in this film could have been... For fuck's sake! He's taking the fucking piss. Ben, if you're listening, you're a fucking wanker. Right. Everything that... He's done it again! Everything that Willem Dafoe does in this film could have been done by... Fuck, he's thrown me off track. It could have been done by Oberyn. The film would not change a bit, except that you'd cut down on time and cut down on the boring parts in between the fights. As well as the whole character problem, there's the editing. The editing in this film is abysmal. Not in the same way that something like Suicide Squad or Taken 3 is, where, it's incomprehensible and overly cutty. More just in the way that they introduce scenes. A lot of the action scenes or the battle sequences or just the sort of more visual moments in this film are introduced to us seemingly halfway through. For example, there's a bit where all of the characters get on these hot air balloons to travel somewhere. We see them get on this, then we cut somewhere else, and then the next time we cut to them, all the balloons are on fire and crashing to the ground, and people are just dying and screaming, and I was like, wait, what? I understood what happened, because earlier they'd mentioned that these balloons aren't stable and that this might happen. But it didn't show it. It just sort of cut to it midway through, and that's comical. That's something you do in a sitcom. They all get up onto these balloons, what could go wrong? And then we cut to them just crashing. And it does this a lot. It just cuts to random action sequences partway through. And as I said, I always understood. I always followed what was happening. It was never confusing. It just meant that I had to fill in the gaps in my head in a way that I don't think I should have had to. There's a character death in this film that I know what happened to this character, but only kind of by inferring it. We watch him in the middle of this fight, and then we cut to him on a stretcher dying. And given the context of what was happening around him, I think I understand how he died, but it's really kind of I guess I had to make that up. And a lot of the film is like that. It's so rushed. Like I said, no time for characters, no time for scenes to be properly introduced, and no time to get to major plot points. They just pull some of this stuff out their arse. It's really quite funny. Someone just, at one point in the film, spoilers, mild spoilers, someone just goes, maybe we can confuse the monsters with magnets. And you're like, wait, what? where the fuck did that come from? But he's just like, magnets! Use the magnets! And you're like, wait, why the magnets? What? And it does this a lot. It just sort of rushes through things. And character arcs are on the same sort of wavelength in the sense that characters just turn like that. They don't have time to grow or adapt or evolve. They just change because the script needs them to now, so change. As I said, though, I didn't hate this film. It was mildly diverting. In fact, there were moments where I thought, this could be really good. And they were the battle sequences. They're not amazingly staged. They're not amazingly executed, but there are some great ideas here. Particularly in terms of like the way that the wall has these elaborate defenses. You know, I've already mentioned the people bungee jumping off the wall to kind of like pick off the monsters by like jumping down, stabbing them, popping back up, jumping down. That was cool. There's some great traps on the wall. And I loved the sort of formation system that the warriors have. As I mentioned, they all dress like Power Rangers. And it's ridiculous, but it's one of the more fun parts of the film. And you know what? Something being campy and silly isn't always the worst thing. But basically, all of the soldiers have different coloured uniforms. There's like blue, red, black squadron. And what that means is that they're the different like units in the battle. So the red ones are the archers, the blue ones are the bungee jumpers, the black ones are the death squad. That's all they call them. I don't know what that means, but it's awesome, the death squad. And then what happens is they have these drummers who will like send commands out via the drums, and so you listen to the rhythm to figure out who they're communicating to and what they're telling them to do. And that's cool. That's a cool idea. Like all these different coloured units in the army who do different things, and they're like led by these drums with different rhythms for different units. That was a great idea. And equally, the monsters have weird strategies too. They don't do as much with that as I hoped, but they do sort of suggest that these creatures have their own ideas. Like they do that weird kind of shield thing from 300 with like their don't know what you'd call it, like their hoods, you know, like cobras have hoods. They use them as like shields, and they kind of organize themselves in interesting ways, but they don't do as much with that as you'd hope. But that was a cool concept, and I think if the film just focused on what it did well, which was the crazy battle stuff, I think it would have been good. Not like a guilty pleasure, but good. Like, imagine if it was like a Game of Thrones style siege, one of those Game of Thrones siege episodes, like Blackwater. Just a whole episode devoted to one battle on this wall where they're trying to stop the monsters scaling it. You could still do character stuff, because obviously you do that in a siege. They're like prolonged fights. And I think that would have worked better. Instead, what we have is something that will have moments of coolness, and then we cut to long stretches of characters being dull. And then we'll cut back to a brief battle, and then it's back to characters being dull. And then at the end, they leave the wall anyway. And at that point, when they leave the wall to go elsewhere, it plummets, because the whole selling point of this was that they use the wall and all the traps on the wall in clever ways, and once that's gone, it's just pointless. So yeah, I think it would have been better as just a single siege. I think you could have made an entertaining action movie out of that, at least. I also thought the sound design was pretty solid. Not amazing, but there's some interesting stuff they do with sound. And I think that overall it feels like someone was trying. The director was clearly making some effort. He had ideas. There are some nice visuals in here. It doesn't feel like a lazy cash grab. It actually feels a lot more sincere than I got the impression it was going to be. Like, it does feel like someone tried to make a good film here. But overall, I'm not sure they were that successful. It's not a bad film, but I wouldn't recommend it. I don't spend your money on it. But, you know, if it was on TV, like, you could give it a whirl, and it would probably mildly amuse you. Oh! Fuck, I forgot about Matt Damon's accent. That was the best part. Matt Damon, as I mentioned before, he might be Irish. I don't know. But he's doing this, well, I think it sounds Irish accent. But he does it intermittently. So, like, sometimes he's doing it, and sometimes he's just doing normal Matt Damon voice. And I know sometimes people hate it when actors just use their American accent in these historical films, because you're like, why is an American over here in ancient China? That would have been less distracting, though, than what they did. Like, eventually you just go, whatever, he's just doing an American accent, and you just settle into it and you forget about it. But what he does here is so distracting, A, because it's laughable, and B, because he's not even doing it consistently. He just sort of, like, in between scenes, changes whether or not he's doing it. That was so bizarre. I'm surprised I haven't seen more about it, because it was a really bad accent, and people like to talk about how hilarious some of these performances can be, and I thought it was funny. I like Matt Damon, but oh no, Matt, no Matt. I'd give this a 5 because I didn't hate it, I didn't love it either. Just, it was a perfectly average film, which is what the 5 means.